This is a story of lies and deceit, where heroes and villains blend together. You will be presented with evidence supposing the true nature of the principal party, the terrible crimes he committed, the webs he spun, and the motives behind his depraved behavior. You must decide whether good or evil, right or wrong. Do be careful. Things may not be as clear as they appear. Together, we'll find the answer. Together, we'll sort through the lies. You can believe in the facts as I present them, but tread carefully. The most dangerous move you can make in this game is trust. Just when you think you know the truth, you couldn't be further from it. The lesson here is there is no line between truth and lie, in the case of Kaiki Deshu. Our introduction to Kaiki Deshu in Nisei Monogatari is cartoonishly evil. Gnarled branches of dead trees hang in shadow over a deep red sky. In the distance, we see a silhouette lit in front of this harsh sun. The lighting makes even the stream in front of the Kanbaru household appear as though it runs with blood, before cutting to a wide shot where it separates Araragi from this ghoulish figure. The scene may as well add neon signs flashing "bad guy" in the background. Kaiki's first line in the series lauds Araragi for the immediate distrust he shows him. He says it's good to be cautious with a stranger, telling Araragi to treasure that skepticism. Consider how the perspectives of both characters affect the scene. First, we're of course taking it in through Araragi's eyes. We're meant to believe Kaiki is this incredibly ominous, threatening figure because that's how Araragi sees him. But perhaps Araragi perceives him as such because that's how he wants to be perceived. Kaiki is in complete control here. He almost toys with Araragi disappointedly, bemused by how easily he's taken in by this sinister aura. I suppose if I'm a dead tree, you must be a sapling. He sets up this dichotomy between the two of them. In Araragi's worldview, there's little room for gray. People who do good are good. People who do bad are bad, and need to be stopped. It feels weird to insinuate someone with Araragi's, general behavior has any moral compass, but he very much ascribes to this belief in a world based on clear villains and the heroes who rise to stop them. Araragi himself fights against supernatural forces who prey on the negative feelings of their victims to bring out their inner turmoil and often cause them to lash out. Each situation is pretty black and white, and Araragi is always there to help them through their crises with gusto, usually subduing the affliction by force. But he doesn't really solve these conflicts, so much as they're simply repressed. These aren't just evildoers from another dimension. The afflictions continue to manifest because the underlying cause of the girl's issues is still affecting them. It's not until each of them confronts their inner demons on their own, breaking them at their root, that they're able to truly heal. It's also no coincidence several of these cases are only resolved when the central character is void of Araragi's presence, for reasons we'll get to later. Nisei Monogatari sets Kaiki up to be another such clear villain. His introduction ends with Araragi deciding to let Kaiki go based on his intuition that getting involved with this man would lead to no good, as a close-up shot of Kaiki's eye reads threat. The scene tells us far more about how Araragi sees the world than Kaiki's true nature. From here, Nisei continues to establish this image of a truly heinous individual. We learn Kaiki was the one who originally conned Senjo Gahara and destroyed her family. Kaiki sold the snake spirit to Nadeko's classmate and Bake, and is now selling curses to their entire middle school. Now, Araragi's sister, Karen, has found herself the victim of one such curse after she tried to confront him herself. This all builds to Kaiki's second appearance, a flashback to that scene with Karen. Again, the villainous imagery is over the top near to the point of parody. The room is cast completely in abstract patterns of black and white. There is literally no morally gray area here. Kaiki sits menacingly at one end with an array of lit candles in front of him. Again, he remains in firm control of the scene. An overhead shot establishes space and distance between the two, with a shadow cast across Kaiki's side. As he interrogates her, the walls flicker like TV screens to his face, his eyes boxing her in. In some ways, the Fire Sisters' overdeveloped sense of justice mirrors their brothers. Karen believes the good guys always win, so as long as she stands for justice, she'll put a stop to whatever evil comes her way. Here, she rushed in with nothing resembling a plan beyond brute force. Her empty threats bounce right off Kaiki, who stares back with utter boredom. Karen is all about principles, fighting for her ideals. Kaiki is the antithesis to that. His only principle is his lack of principles. The only motivation for Kaiki is making money, and evil makes for a great business opportunity. The Araragi's Heroes and Villains Act won't work on someone who doesn't answer to any sense of justice to begin with. Araragi tells Kaden she can't defeat him. You never go after evil people, just villains, echoing a line Senjokahara had told him earlier.
怪奇の不吉に正義は通用しないわよ。はっきり言うけれど、荒木くんは正義だけあって、偽善には強くとも悪人には弱い。
When Senjokahara reflects on what Kaiki did to her and her family, she recognizes that their situation was already spiraling before he ever entered the picture. She says, but does the fact that the result would have been the same forgive the fact he caused it? The pain he inflicted on her is still real, regardless of any hypothetical, and to overcome that pain, to finally gain closure on that chapter of her life, she believes she has to confront him. As the lingering feelings of all the cast of Bake shows, problems of trauma and personal hardship can't be solved with fists. Thus, the conclusion to Kaden B breaks away from those preceding arcs that had more bombastic climaxes. Instead, Senjokahara lets her feelings out and demands Kaiki make amends. Kaiki instantly agrees, promising to undo every last crime, and even to return the money he swindled from her father. He's not a fighter. He won't push back. By the time he's finished his half-assed apology, he's already cooking up the next scam to make up for the loss. The scene throws more of that bad guy imagery at us, with crows flying overhead and a Power Ranger-style show playing on screens behind them, echoing that Saturday morning cartoon vibe where good and bad fall neatly on either side of a line. But finally, Kaiki cuts down that image Araragi has had of him since they first met.
お前が敵視するこの俺はただの冴えない中年だよ。詐欺師としても至極小物のわびしい人間だ。それともお前には俺が化け物にでも見えたか?
He says he knows nothing about the supernatural, but knows those who do. He's no supervillain, he's merely done things one might do. There never was a monster afflicting Kaden. They simply believed it was there, and so it was. Through his grand speech, Kaiki pushes aside this idea of heroes and villains. Araragi saw him as such because of his own perspective. In reality, Kaiki is nothing special.
人生に劇的なことを期待してはならないということだ。
Sure, everything we know about Kaiki up to now points to an evil man from his actions to character testimony. But as much as the show tries to frame him as this embodiment of evil through these early scenes, Kaiki remains completely disinterested. He doesn't entertain the idea of conflict, seeing this as little more than a business venture, and once it becomes more trouble than it's worth, willingly leaves. But before he exits Nisei Monogatari for good, we get one last appearance in what might be the most important scene to his character arc yet. There he is, the big baddie of the last arc, chilling at a donut shop on some, quote, minor business on his way out of town. Araragi asks him for information, and Kaiki, seeing an opportunity to make a quick buck, relieves him of his wallet and gives him a half-truth. That is the last we see of Kaiki in Nisei, a total departure from his first appearance. While he's certainly the antagonist before, Kaiki is really just ordinary. At least, ordinary as far as Monogatari goes. So what? Who says evil people can't like donuts? Is he a normal guy that does bad things, or a bad guy that occasionally does normal things? All we really know is that Kaiki is driven by money, and will dirty his hands in whatever way allows him to make money. He doesn't believe in any sort of good-evil dichotomy, but ultimately, neither does Monogatari. The heart of its many conflicts aren't the malicious supernatural beings themselves, but the feelings that allowed them to take root. Araragi's methods prove ineffectual at truly solving these issues because it's not about justice or morality. Rather, the personal wounds so many of us have to confront every day. Of course, even if Kaiki himself doesn't buy into it, his actions paint a pretty stark picture. We know he's capable of great evil, but what would happen when Kaiki is presented with an opportunity to do good? Monogatari's second season is all about lies. How the characters lie to one another, to themselves, and even to the audience. Truth in Monogatari is never as clear as it may seem. It repeatedly plays with its narration to affect the story. Remember, events are always filtered through the lens of the POV character. At first, that's only Araragi, so it's easy to take these early series at face value. However, once we move into second season and the point of view character changes, certain things are portrayed in a completely different light than they were when Araragi was telling the story. For one, this allows us to get inside the minds of different characters. The difference between how Araragi perceives Hanakawa and how she perceives herself in Tsubasa Tiger, for instance, tells us a lot about the character. But beyond that, it lets us see what sort of lies these characters have told to this point, the masks they wear hiding their true selves. As Kaiki might say, the falsehoods tell us just as much, if not more, than the truth. However, where Hanakawa and Nadeko lie to themselves as much as anyone, Kaiki presents a different sort of narrator. He's conscious of his agency in communicating his own story, and willfully twists it how he sees fit. As much as Monogatari's unreliable narration is about the lies we tell ourselves, Kaiki is completely self-aware of his own. He establishes this story of lies from Hitagien's first scene. Humans have a desire for truth, or they have a desire to believe that what they know is the truth. In other words, the actual truth comes second to that desire. Be mindful of what is truth and what is a lie. His monologue includes shots of scientific and mathematical principles, hard facts, before it cuts to a series of optical illusions. The truth may not always be as simple as it seems. Always doubt yourself, he says. Where we have to discover Hanakawa and Nadeko's lies alongside them throughout their arcs, Kaiki tells us straight up what this story will be, even hinting at his own terrible demise in the arc's conclusion. Supposedly. Hitagien follows up where we left off in Nadeko Medusa, Nadeko having become a snake god hellbent on exacting vengeance for her unrequited love of Araragi. After some persuasion from Senjougahara, Nadeko agreed to wait until their graduation day to follow through with her quest, killing Araragi, Senjougahara, and Shinobu. With the doomsday clock ticking, Senjougahara has no other choice but to enlist Kaiki for help. The plan? Get Kaiki to deceive Nadeko into letting go of her revenge fantasy. Who better to fool a god than a god of lies? Of course, Senjougahara is too prideful to make such a request lightly, and their battle of lies carries the two all the way to an airport meeting in Okinawa, complete with ridiculous disguises. Senjougahara believes he should accept the job to atone for his previous wrongdoing, but she says it's not making up for the wrong he did to her. Nadeko herself was also an indirect victim of Kaiki's cons.
詐欺による連鎖倒産のようなものか。そうだな。詐欺は連鎖的に被害を生むから、個人の範囲に収まらない社会悪なのだよな。
The framing throughout the scene constantly separates them. When she asks if he'd ever do the job for free, Kaiki says, that would never happen even if heaven and hell flipped over. Cut to a shot of them in the reflection of a water droplet, with Senjougahara framed above and Kaiki opposite. We'll come back to this one. Here, Kaiki is presented with an opportunity. The job is an unequivocal good. He would not only be saving Senjougahara, but potentially helping Nadeko through her crisis as well. Two people he previously victimized. He has a literal conversation with himself to try to find any reason to take the job. One by one, he dismisses every thought, be it to atone for his past crimes or to save a former rival from sure death. Finally, he remembers the daughter of Gaien's older sister, Toei, lives in the town, Kambaru Suruga. Based off the fact he met Araragi in front of the Kambaru household in Nisei, he deduces she must have some connection to Senjougahara, and thus arrives at his conclusion.
Kambaru Surugaのためなら、憎きSenjougaharaとAraragiを助け、千億Nadekoを騙すことが俺にはできるだろうか。イエスだ。
As much as it seems like Kaiki has no meaningful connections to anyone, that he's completely closed off from human emotions and empathy, the reality is, he's as human as any. Kaiki once loved Kambaru's mother, and made a promise to keep her safe before she died. For all his lies, Kaiki knows how to keep a promise. He follows through on his promise to Senjougahara and Nisei to leave their town, and seemingly keeps a watchful eye on Kambaru. We saw it in Nisei, it'll come up again later, and here it's why he takes the job. In Kaiki's first scene with Nadeko after she mentions her unrequited love, text cards read, "She died in a traffic accident anyway. While I know love, I don't know losing it," referring to Toei. While he felt love for her, he never felt it back. Kaiki cared for Toei. He cares for Kambaru because of her, and as much as it seems like he doesn't want to admit it, he cares for Senjougahara. It's strongly implied there's some part of him that wants to help her. During their first conversation when she asks for his help, he says, "I heard those words 2 years ago as well. I wonder how it feels to say the same line to the same person again. I wonder how it feels to save," ending on a shot of Senjougahara's reflection in his eye. Later, she tearfully thanks him for taking the case on, an image that clearly stuck in his head as it urges him to continue pushing forward even as Gaien threatens him to pull out. His second conversation with Ononoki in the arc proves remarkably revealing. To this point, we see Kaiki's actions as entirely driven by his own gain. Whether his deeds are ultimately good or bad is irrelevant to him. He'll do whatever benefits him most. That could be monetary, or something abstract, like keeping a promise to a former crush. But here, that gets turned on its head. Ononoki questions why he's still going through with this, making an enemy of Gaien for a mere 3 million yen. A symmetrical shot splits them, facing opposite sides as Ononoki presses deeper. She believes he's likely to repeat the mistakes of 2 years ago, when he swindled and crushed the religious cult Senjogahara's mother was involved in. That was for Senjogahara too, right? She says. In the end, Senjogahara's mother simply left to a higher ranked cult, dissolving their family unit. However, perhaps this wasn't a failure, but Kaiki's plan all along. He drove them to divorce because that was the only option. As long as Senjogahara was still tied to her mother, she would continue to spiral. The entire shot spins upside down, a callback to his earlier line, flipping heaven and earth as Kaiki's detached, greedy nature gets turned on its head. The ad board behind them has a picture of a man that, when flipped, reveals a second face, much as Ononoki seems to reveal Kaiki's inner self. He cared about Senjogahara then, and he cares about her now. He thinks to himself that he saw her as a fragile kid, an image that hasn't changed. Yet in spite of that, she's still here. For such a fragile person to survive the ordeal of 2 years ago, the past 18 years living in that home, and come out the other side is a testament to her strength. Kaiki chose to help her here, not to atone for past wrongdoing. As he said in Nisei, the past is merely the past. There's no value in overcoming it or catching up to it. But because he doesn't want to see her crumble now. He failed her back then, and she persevered. While he may have been right that breaking it up was the only way to pull Senjogahara out of the spiral her family was in, as Sanjo herself alluded to Araragi and Nisei, he failed to account for her feelings. That is Kaiki's fatal flaw. Not that he doesn't have feelings, but he struggles to understand the feelings of others. Whether it's his unrequited love for Toei, his falling out with Senjogahara, or ultimately his initial failure to deceive Nadeko. Just as Gaien and Hanakawa predicted, he failed to account for Nadeko's own perspective, the extent to which she'd already closed herself off from the world. How can you deceive someone who never had any trust to begin with? He tells Hanakawa, "To those that make a living from work of my sort, people's feelings are most important." But ironically, it's his inability to consider others' feelings that lead to his failures. Kaiki claims to hate irreplaceable things, and believes that nothing is truly so. That's why he loves money, because it can take the place of anything. Thus, condensing the value of your own life to a single point, as Nadeko has, opposes everything he stands for. Similarly, he can't understand the depth of Senjogahara's feelings for Araragi. How long will those last? As they continue on in life, maybe they'll drift apart. Yet he envies and even admires Senjogahara's ability to always move forward. She treats the current moment like it's her everything. If it fails, then it merely becomes a part of her past she'll have to accept as she moves on to the next thing. She learned to live with the past and doesn't fear the future. A youthful optimism Kaiki believes is the way we should all be. Ultimately, Kaiki convinces Nadeko to see the value in her own life. He was the right person to save her, but not because of his lies. Rather, she needed someone who could show her there's more to life than an unrequited love. One thing you can say for sure about Kaiki is he lives his life on his own terms, not conforming to any expectation of him. Nadeko needed to hear that, and it's why Araragi could never be the one to save her. As much as Araragi wants to save everybody, you can't always be that person for someone. As long as Araragi was in Nadeko's life, she could never move forward because she needs to move past him. His presence keeps her rooted in place, just as Kaiki couldn't be that person for Senjogahara. It's a common theme throughout second season. Be it Hanakawa's inability to express her feelings or Mayui's unwillingness to let go, Araragi may have helped them through their initial condition, but they still weren't able to help themselves. They had grown dependent. They had to learn how to come to grips with their problems on their own terms. Thus, when second season forces them to do just that, only then do they begin to heal. As Oshino would say, only you can save yourself. Kaiki shows Nadeko a path forward, and she decides to take it. In the end, Kaiki removes himself from this story and Senjogahara's life for good. faking his own death at the hands of the boy he sold the snake curse to way back in Bake. It's only when he shows up in Hana later in the timeline that we realize this was another of his many ruses, making us question just how much of this story was true after all. But the thing with Kaiki's lies is he always gives us warning, whether it's telling us up front to look beyond the surface of things, or, making multiple mentions of getting killed by middle schoolers with a grudge throughout the arc. He's honest about his dishonesty. He fulfilled his promise to Senjo Gahara, and eventually fulfills his promise to the person he loved. Kaiki's meeting with Suruga in Hana Monogatari pays off what we've been anticipating ever since his first appearance in Nisei outside the Kanbaru household. Kanbaru stays guarded at first, knowing his relationship to Senjo Gahara and Araragi, but can't help but wonder why he seems like a good guy here. She gradually softens throughout the conversation, especially when he brings up her mother, recalling how they met and the feelings he had for her. Time has passed now. He says it's only a distant memory, a memory not worth a cent. Even so, even as enough years have gone by to make him forget her face, here he is, keeping true to his word. He hands Kanbaru the business card he gave out to Senjo Gahara and his other victims, but here crosses out Ghostbuster. There's no tricks or lies involved with this. Kaiki has truly come full circle. Where his introduction to us screamed ominous and threatening, here he looks more like a sad dad than anything. Kanbaru's goofy uncle who keeps wanting her to eat meat and grow up strong. Fitting, his final appearance in the timeline of the series is merely following through on his intent in that first scene. At last, Kaiki spells out his true character. He believes nobody is pure evil in every scenario, that we don't live in such a black and white world. He says no one has the same personality when viewed from all angles, and no one has the same personality at all times, much like we saw from the core cast throughout second season. Even Kaiki's most consistent character trait, his love of money, isn't fixed. I love money, but I also use that money. He just bought Kanbaru a meal for no particular reason to keep a promise he made years ago. Even the most selfish person on Earth can be selfless if they choose so. The question, is Kaiki a good person, has no easy answer, because Kaiki's arc is about showing how people are too complex to make such statements in the first place. Just as you may be someone's arch nemesis, you're another's helping hand. Where Monogatari's early arcs from Araragi's perspective take a more uncompromising view of people, Kaiki demonstrates humanity is far more gray. After that first scene in Nisei makes him out to be the devil, every appearance since chips away at such a narrow point of view. Of course, Kaiki's few good deeds don't erase the harm he's caused, but that's impossible anyway. You can't rewrite the past in the present. This isn't a zero-sum game where helping one person undoes the damage to another. Inevitably, people will do both, for we all have the capacity to do good and evil. You never quite know which side Kaiki will land on when he shows up. Taking all of his appearances together, Kaiki said it best himself. Concerning me, the pursuit of maybes may be an endless task. Maybe. He deceives as easy as he draws breath, but lets you know first. He swindles people out of house and home, but always keeps his promises. In a story of lies, he's a walking contradiction, but that's what makes him no different from anyone else. Just another person. That is Kaiki Deshu.